Many people eat meat every day. Some eat it with every meal. But have you ever considered what this could be doing to our world? Hello, my name is Samantha McCormick and I'll be talking to you about the meat industry today. Within the last 3 years, we have heard a call for a change in our diet, but instead of listening as to why, many people believe they know best. In the past few decades, the meat industry has changed considerably due to the increased demand for meat. Although many of us love our wings on game day or our huge holiday feast, we need to be smarter consumers. The rise of animal agriculture calls to question our ethics on the meat that we eat and how it affects more than we think. The rise is hurting our world, and we must do what is needed to protect the earth. The first thing to understand is how we are producing so much meat and primarily what that means to the animals. Like many things in the world, farming has the potential to gain a lot of money. Therefore, there was a shift in how traditional farming was being done. The big corporations realized that they could produce more if they went to factory farming. Factory farming is a system of raising livestock using intensive methods by which poultry, pigs, or cattle are confined indoors under strictly controlled conditions. Factory farming is cheaper, which then makes the products cheaper to the consumer, which ultimately will increase sales. Danielle Nurnberg shared in her article, Factory Farming in the Developing World of May 2003, stating that feedlots are responsible for 43% of the world's beef, and more than half of the world's pork and poultry are raised in factory farms. Although factory farming is cheaper and can produce more, we must ask what the lives of the animal is like. Dr. Michael Geiger shared in his article, A Virus of Our Own Hatching, in 2006, stating that factory farms represent the most significant change in the lives of the animals in the past 10,000 years. Animals raised in factory farms are deprived of what is natural and important to them. Animals live through different types of cruelty while on these factory farms. Many are forced into cramped cages without any movement, without any room for movement, or feedlots where they have very small room as well. By concentrating large numbers of animals in these factory farms, they are great incubators for disease. The stress of factory farm conditions weakens the animals' immune systems. Laura Serra shared in her journal Mother Earth News, published in March 2009, that ammonia from accumulated waste burns the lungs and makes them more susceptible to infection. The lack of sunlight and fresh air, as well as the genetic uniformity of industrial farm populations, allows the spread of pathogens. Many animals are given antibiotics for the sole purpose of the animals to grow faster and produce more. The Union of Concerned Laura Serra shared in her article, Mother Earth News, that the Union of Concerned Scientists estimates that non-therapeutic animal agriculture accounts for 70% of all total antibiotic use in the United States. When the animals need to be moved for any reason, they are typically forced into large trucks that travel for thousands of miles, sometimes in extreme weather conditions, and many times without food or water. Not only does factory farming harm the animals, but it also affects humans in numerous ways. Meat eaters consume 600 to 900 more calories than the average person per day. Published in 2018, the article Factory Farming shares that the additive-infused foods used to nourish factory-farmed animals also increases the saturated fat in the meat, which is believed to be a contributing factor to prevalence of heart conditions and obesity in the United States. Along with obesity, humans are starting to show antibiotic-resistant bacterial strains that are rooted from the American industrial livestock practices. Ariel Lessing shared in her journal, Killing Us Softly, that was published in July of 2010, that factory farms promote the growth of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, or superbugs. This is by giving animals subtherapeutic doses of antibiotics to prevent diseases that result from the unhygienic and confinement conditions they are faced every day. Factory farms are also the breeding grounds for deadly diseases, not just in the meat, but in the air, water, and the factory workers. Laura Sayre shared in the Mother Earth News that once these microbes become widespread in the environment, it is very hard to contain. Now that we know how factory farming can be directly linked to our health issues, we also must question if it could be doing anything to our environment. Meat production is a major factor in deforestation. Grazing now occupies 70% of the previously forested Amazon regions. Overgrazing leads to soil erosion and deforestation. Releases of hazardous emissions into the air from farms occur as byproducts of the decomposition animals. Waste goes into the lagoons, fields, and farms. Tara Setner shared in the Environmental International Journal 2010 that farms-raised animals emit ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, particulate matter, and other hazardous pollutants. Dr. Schiffman shared in the Environmental Health Perspective Journal in 2005 that common health effects linked to air pollution includes headaches, eye irritation, nausea, depression, anger, and other psychological responses. America's animals produce about 2 billion tons of manure each year. That is about 10 times of the human population, and most of that comes from factory farms. Factory manure is more pollutant than what the old-fashioned kind used to be, mainly due to how these animals are being fed. Jane Mason shared in his article, Fouling the Waters, September 1995, that the animals produce a very rich manure, rich not only with protein and other organic matters, but also with nitrogen, phosphorus, heavy metals, feed additives, and other potential pollutants. Now that we know that factory farming is cruel to the animals, causing harm to our own health and to the environment, it leads us to question, what can we do? One thing we can do to help reduce factory farming numbers is cutting back on how much meat we intake. A couple options to reduce the meat being produced could be becoming vegetarian or vegan. A vegetarian is someone who does not eat meat, poultry, or fish. Their diet mainly consists of fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and seeds. Many assume that a vegetarian diet can be hard to maintain and would not provide enough of the needed nutrients. However, published in the article Vegetarianism in 2017, the World Health Organization have published studies that conclude that vegetarian diets provide certain health benefits. Based on the findings, vegetarians tend to weigh less, have lower cholesterol levels, and face a reduced risk of certain cancers. Also, finding the needed nutrients is not a hard task. A vegetarian diet that features an ample amount of soybeans, nuts, and beans can supply many of the nutrients that is provided in meat. Vegan diets are very similar to vegetarian diets, but there are additional animal products they do not eat, such as eggs, honey, and dairy. Melissa Knopper shared in the Environmental Magazine of December 2007 that vegans also do not use leather, fur, silk, wool, and certain cosmetics. If neither of these options work for someone due to their prior health issues, concerned with not eating enough, or any other reason, they can still choose the option to cut back on how much meat they intake during a week, such as having a meatless Monday. Now that we have discussed what one can do to change their own habits to a healthier, eco-friendlier lifestyle, we can also discuss what we can do to make a greater change in the world of factory farming. Factory farming is clearly a danger to the animal's health and our own well-being. So besides just choosing not to eat meat, we must make a greater impact to call for an end of these cruel ways we harvest food. An easier task than to stop eating meat altogether is not buying from companies that do not believe in animal rights. You can use your economic power and show companies that you will not be supporting these tactics. You can decide to also eat more locally, such as visiting your local farmers market, local farms, or your local deli shops. Ariel Lessing shared in Kelowna softly that during elections, it is very important to vote for a party or candidate who speaks against factory farming. Approach political parties and ask them about their viewpoints if they are not already stated about the topic. One of the main issues in fighting for change in the industry is many are not knowledgeable on how harmful factory farming actually is. In order to change this, you can submit a letter to magazines, online blogs, or newspapers stating your opinion. This will be viewed by many readers and they can form their own opinion based on it. Also, you can support organizations that are against factory farming by donating money to help raise awareness or helping volunteer with an organization, such as the Animal Freedom Foundation. Now that we know what factory farming is, the cruelty the animals face, and how it affects our own lives every day, by gaining this knowledge, we are called to question if this is time to make changes. In conclusion, the way we have been obtaining our food is beyond unethical. We are not only harming the animals who do not live a normal life, we are also causing harm to our own bodies and our environment. In a desperate time where the Earth's climate is changed, we must do everything we can to protect the Earth. This might be going from a change of your own diet to educating your friends and family or electing someone that will call for an overall change in the practices. Although meat tends to be a main entree in many of our meals every day, it is time to ask yourself the question, is your meal worth the overall harm it causes?